Hello, in this video we're going to do something a little bit different here today with Zendesk. We're going to run through an example of how to have Process Shepherd to actually interface into Zendesk. And what I'll do is I'll show you the final outcome, and then we'll walk through and explore as to how we actually did it. So this is the wizard that we'll be executing. And what it does is it collects information from Zendesk. So it'll access details around the ticket that I have open, and then it'll write information to the ticket. So this is just a test case. It's not a functional example. So the steps in here are not real. So as soon as we launch it, the first thing it does is it looks at the ticket that it has open. So it's confirming here the subject, probably a bad example, but that's the subject line. The priority is low and the status is new. So we can see priority low and wherever the status field is, somewhere in there. But anyway, so we're just verifying that this is the correct ticket. So what we've done here is we've had the ticket ID being sent to us when the pop occurs. So when Process Shepherd gets opened, and we then go back to Zendesk and say, give me information specifically for this ticket. So we just confirm, go to the next step. Now the next step here is we're actually going to update a custom field. So I've been really creative and I've called it custom field 1. So this is a string and we're just going to update. So when I press enter, we can see that that's gone through. It's populated it straight away. And we're just proving here, just showing out a few different field types. So these are all custom fields that have been configured inside the Zendesk administrator. And that there's different types that we're supporting here. So custom field 2 is a tick box. So you can see that there. And as soon as I tick it, we can see that has become ticked. So it's pretty much real time. And then so field 3, you can select one of the options. Press OK, or select it, and then it's done. So that shows the two-way communication here. We've got we're retrieving information from Zendesk, the ticket ID, but then actually pulling in the whole ticket. So we have the data that's available there to make decisions and present information to the user. And then secondly is we're able to actually update, in this example, custom fields, but you can pretty much update anything you want just by using the APIs. Now let's have a look at the magic behind the scenes and see how this works. So we'll go into the flow creator. Now, this first section here that I've highlighted with a comment block is just highlighting that these 4 blocks here are for debug purposes. Because this wizard is intended to be executed inside Zendesk, when you're developing it, you can't run it because you're not inside Zendesk. You don't have those API calls. You don't have the pop coming through to give you the ticket. So the first block here is a code block. And what it does is it's looking for the CX reference, which is the ID. And so if that hasn't been provided, then we can turn around and say, well, you're not running inside Zendesk. You're running natively inside the browser like we are here, or you're developing it. So if you're not running into Zendesk, what it does is it asks you for the Zendesk ticket ID that you're going to be testing with, and then it updates that, and then it sort of goes through. So the first step that we do is we do an API call here to get the ticket. When a ticket is open, Zendesk sends Process Shepherd the ticket ID. We have that, we keep it, and then we can use that here to then go back to the Zendesk API and say, give us all the details around this ticket. Now, there's a few interesting things to note here. The URL is a variable, and so is the ticket ID. I mean, naturally, the ticket ID is going to be 1, but the variable for Zendesk means that you can actually have a different URL for production and then a different one for dev. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So inside Wizard, Settings, and Global Variables, what we can do here is we can set a global variable called Zendesk URL. So this variable is exposed across all wizards. And what you can do is you can set a live value and then a test value. So when you're testing it, when you're working on the wizard and you run the preview mode, that's what was considered as test. So it'll use this URL. And then once it's published and people start executing that wizard, then it'll use the live value. So that way, if you have a dev system and a production system, which most people don't, but just in case you do. And the same thing happens for the credentials. So in this case, the Zendesk auth token gets added to the header, which I'll show you in a moment. But again, we have a live value and then a test value. And that field is masked, so it doesn't get exposed through the logging or anything like that. You can't get it out. It's secured. So if we go back into here, we can see that the header, we have the value of bearer and then the authorization key. So that's how you do a GET request. So this is a basic API block that just calls that URL, provides the Zendesk header to authenticate. The response that comes back, we, using a small amount of JavaScript code, we parse the JSON response and pull out the key pieces of information that we're interested in, such as the ticket description, the priority, and the status. And we join that into a string to then return back. All right. And that's how we display the ticket information. So the ticket information is put into a variable, which we then use that tag to display that variable to the user. So pretty straightforward. Now, the next one is where we're starting to actually update things. This is where it starts to get a little bit more interesting. So we're asking for custom field one to be populated. So a value gets assigned to that variable, custom field value one, custom one value. And here we're seeing another API block where what we're doing is we're doing a patch request. So this is doing an update, and we're updating the ticket ID. So it's the same one that we did the GET request on earlier. Now we're using a sync true. What that means is that the Zendesk API doesn't wait to complete the transaction before it returns back saying, okay, I did it. So as soon as it accepts it, it'll return back okay, and it'll allow you to move on. It's a faster way of processing things. It's optional, you don't have to have it in there. So this is the structure of the JSON document, which will allow you to update the custom field. So the way it works within Zendesk, inside the admin interface, you find the ID of your custom field. And here in the Zendesk administration, we've gone into objects and rules and then fields. And we can see here, custom field 1, 2, and 3. And these are the field IDs. So I'm just grabbing that value there and putting it in. And the value that's being set to the field is coming from the variable of the input block, which was just asked what value you want. And that's it. That's how you update a custom field. And the rest of them are just a repeat of that. So if we go into here, we can see again, we're updating the next custom field, which this one was the tick box for memory. And it's the same thing over and over. So this is a simple way of being able to update those fields. So you can have the workflow collect information from the customer, or the agent enters it in, and it's populated into the ticket. So that way there isn't any duplication of effort there. I hope this has been valuable for you. If you have any questions, please reach out to us. Thank you.